And so it's time for me to hook back up with my special effects designers at Soda Productions to take my fake track making to the next level.
Next stage.
Good to see you.
So, all right, talk to me.
We got these, we got them poured up. They've been sitting up for a couple of hours. So we're gonna pop these out of the mold to give you the feet. We've attached them to drywall stilts to give you a parallelogram like a real step. These attach onto here. They telescope down. You can actually wear them and walk in them.
And this is a urethane called Fast Flex, and it's castable urethane, and it kind of feels like a tire when it's completely cured.
Okay.
Dermal skin ridges, movement of toes, and length of stride are all considered this time. And these track makers were actually modeled after Roy's own set of what are supposed to be real tracks cast in Washington years ago. It's time to take my hoaxing to the next level. I have the track makers. Now I need to make and subsequently cast with plaster my fake tracks. My current bill, by the way, is now approaching $10,000 in costs. And that's with Roy giving me a deal out of sheer interest. Hoaxing is indeed no simple matter. I have to show pictures of the measurements and pay attention to getting some quality castings. As good as I'm getting at doing this, I still blew it on the first few attempts, until finally, I had my prize, albeit fake, track. But now comes the litmus test. Can I present all of this to Jeff Meldrum and John Bindernagel, two of the most knowledgeable people on the planet when it comes to Bigfoot tracks and biology, and have them spot the fake? Do these accredited professionals face controversy in their fields? You bet they do. But they remain undaunted, and with the amount of data they're aware of, there are no doubts in their minds of the creature's existence. Jeff and John are on the extreme left side of the scale, convinced that we are dealing with an upright walking ape, or perhaps Gigantopithecus. And their knowledge level of detail on everything from foot morphology, including skin dermal ridges, to hair DNA, is impressive to say the least.
Here was a hoax of the day.
These are hoaxes.
These are hoaxes.
Wow.
So here, you can actually see the person has used their hand, and in trying to impress the soil, without excavating, what they do is they press in here, it causes the soil to hump up. And then here they're just using their fingers. I mean, these are so clearly finger imprints.
Just as it becomes easy for a wildlife biologist to know the difference between a black bear track and a grizzly bear track, many of the same field techniques are used to flesh out the fake Bigfoot tracks from the real ones. As Jeff points out all of the various tracks, I get to see a piece of Sasquatch history.
And what are these here?
These are just some replicas. These are from the Patterson-Gimlin film site, actually. So this is the tracks of Patty. These were cast by Roger Patterson. This is one of the two originals. Those are still excellent examples of presumably a female Sasquatch.
To keep my ruse as real as possible, I've also brought along 3 other castings, which are supposedly real and actual Bigfoot tracks, including my own from Clem 2, British Columbia.
I'm just sort of bringing them to you two gentlemen.
Sure.
And saying, okay, well, now let's take a look at these.
All right.
So these here were in the Clem 2 area out on Clem 2 Lake in the sand. They happened overnight while I was out there alone, and they were 40 yards apart.
So looking at this, I would assume this is the track, and here's the ball, and the indication of the arch, and then big toe, and then the smaller lateral toes. It's actually very similar to a human. And of course the size, you're not ruling out a human by tremendous size proportions.
I wanted to argue about those casts because I was there. But for now, on to the sting.
I looked at these striations here. Is that what you call dermal ridging?
That could well be. Maybe some down here. It's pretty faint. Yeah, in fact, that's pretty good. The detail is actually pretty interesting. The toe stems are quite visible. I was talking earlier about the significance of the breadth to length ratios, and that breadth is quite compelling. These teardrop-shaped toe pads are very natural looking. I mean, it bears a striking resemblance here to this footprint.
At first, and I believe it was out of courtesy and good manners for my benefit, I seemed to have them fooled. But then, giving in to his more scientific and critical thinking, Jeff notices something too coincidental to ignore.
You know, and this is one thing that does sometimes give me pause. This is a very widely known track.
True.
The more I talk about these things, the easier it is for someone to get a hold of a copy like this and use it either as a pattern, either directly, or as a pattern to make a fabrication. This one actually looks a lot like this track, except it seems to be a bit broader, and that could just be some of the deformation in the snow and the casting process after. But even that very distinctive teardrop toe, which is quite similar to this example here. Teardrop toe.
Would you say, yeah, this is suspect on any of these?
Well, I wouldn't place a lot of value on these, quite honestly, because I'm pretty sure that's human. So I would set those aside.
Okay.
These are very interesting to me, and I would want to look at them further to eliminate conclusively that possibility that a hoaxer was using some other source of inspiration to come up with a believable footprint.